Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
She immediately broke down in tears when she
Aw.
saw those images. She said, "You helped me to look so confident in these images. I now feel like I can go out and conquer the world."
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice and business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So we were recently connected by a mutual friend in this entrepreneurial space because you do also work with speakers such as myself. So it's fun to connect with you, learn more about you and your business. And I'd love to share you with my world. So why don't you tell us more what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Daniel Wakefield. I am the founder of Top Tier Headshots. We're a commercial photography company. We do professional headshots and personal branding images for individuals such as keynote speakers, founders, executives, as well as doing, corporate group team headshots as well for companies also, and kind of expanding a little bit into some other spaces and just kind of, as we increasingly work with people who are building their personal brands, wanting to be a resource in a lot of different ways for them, as really to round out and amplify that personal brand. So, but that's kind of what the foundation is for the company. Started the business a little over 5 years ago. So I made that first business check mark 5 years in and going strong. So we're super thankful for that. Formerly used to be a high school science teacher. A little bit of a different career path now, but love bringing kind of that love for teaching and helping others grow to this side of personal brand building and photography as well.
Mm-hmm. So fun. Well, I definitely want to dive in and geek out on the personal brand type stuff because the importance of images, right? I mean, that's how people make decisions in many ways and how you convey who you are so that they can decide if they want to work with you and if
Absolutely.
you're or not. But I do love a backstory, and you already gave us some hints there of your background that is seemingly unrelated, but there's always a common thread. So I'd love for you to go back and tell us more about especially the decision of, all right, I'm going to start this, and this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have always loved wildlife and nature from the time I was just a little boy, fascinated by wildlife. And when we moved to Florida almost 11 years ago, I thought to myself, man, there's wildlife here that I'd love to see in the wild. I'd love to, and I had a camera and thought, it'd be cool to be able to get some pictures of some of these things, alligators and, crazy stuff like that. And so I went out and started finding stuff in the wild and photographing it, and the photos were terrible at the beginning. And, I was following other, actual wildlife photographers on Instagram and just thinking, how do I get from where I am to where they are in terms of the quality of the images? And at that point, it wasn't even a thought about, a career change or anything like that. It was simply as having a little bit of an artistic flair myself, I wanted to be able to capture images of these experiences and these wildlife and be able to look back on them and show them to other people and really use them as a storytelling kind of a tool, and mostly just as a hobby, really. And so I really dove into learning photography, learning, obviously all the technical things, but then once the technical things got in place and became second nature, that's where the storytelling really starts to thrive and you start to experiment and get creative with things. And so I just started, a wildlife photography Instagram account. And it kind of, I wouldn't say blew up, but it gained some good following over a couple of years. I ended up getting published a few times with some of the wildlife work. And kind of along the journey of growing as a photographer, I started to really fall in love with photography itself. So it wasn't just the wildlife anymore, it was the actual medium of photography, and started to think about how do I do this as a career. Um, Unfortunately, high school teachers are not super well known for having great salaries,
Mhm.
which is unfortunate,
Yeah.
but it's just the reality of things. And my wife wanted to stay at home and homeschool our kids, so I was like, I can't just be a teacher. We need to be able to do something. And
Yeah.
so, um, kind of one thing led to another, and I ended up starting this business in January of 2021, right on the heels of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Nowhere to go but up from there.
Right.
And man, it's been a whirlwind of just learning, and not just learning again more of a hyper specific photography genre, but also all of the business stuff that entrepreneurs have to learn in order to thrive: the marketing, the sales, the personal brand
Yeah.
building, the operations, everything. It was all new to me.
Yeah.
It was all a new thing, and but I was like, I want to make this work to support my family. And so I just dove in, and 5 years later, here we are.
Yay. Oh, that's so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing. It's so fun
Yeah,
to hear about the evolution, um, how things go like gradually, right? I mean, for some
yeah.
people, it's like, I'm just going to jump in, but
Mhm.
especially if you have a family, right? You have other obligations. It's not just an overnight thing. And it's cool to hear about, started the Instagram account, you started studying it to the point where, all right, now I'm going to do it. Tell us more
Mhm.
about some of those first steps that were helpful for you in terms of like networking. Where did your first clients come from, and how have you expanded that to then have consistent clients and all that?
Yeah, so part of the story is that my first month in business, we did $50 in revenue. So starting strong.
Yay!
And that I think that what that did is it made me realize I can't just have a website and put it out there and hope that people will find me. I need to go and do whatever I can do to find those clients. And I didn't really have a good sense for how to do that. But somebody who's a friend of mine who's in commercial real estate, he said, "Hey, have you ever done like a networking lunch? There's this one that I used to go to. I'd be happy to send you their contact info." So that kind of was the start of my networking journey. And at the same time, a mentor of mine had said, I get a lot of business on LinkedIn. You should really look at diving into LinkedIn and start building a presence there. And I just dove right in. No second thoughts. Like, if it's working for him, I'm
Yeah.
gonna, see what I can do to make it work on my end. And so those two things happen concurrently. And it's really kind of been a very much an overlapping
Hmm.
activities for me, that LinkedIn is not like a billboard where I just post sales
Right.
pitches all the time. I very much view it as a networking platform. And so anybody that I was meeting at in-person networking events, getting to know them, starting to build relationships, I was connecting with them on LinkedIn, and then at the same time really starting to grow my own voice for posting content on the platform. And what does that look like? What do I post about if I'm not just saying, hey, you should really come and get a headshot from me,
Right.
here's 5 reasons why you should do that? Nobody wants to read that. It's just
Right.
a sales pitch.
Hmm.
Versus, how do I post content that's helpful, informative, helps people that are trying to build personal brands, as well as helping people to get to know me and really begin to like know, like, and trust me as they, connect with me and things like that. So those were really two of the things that made massive differences at the beginning of my business. And the first 6 months of the business were really just an absolute grind of just, going to every event I could find, just posting a lot on LinkedIn, connecting with a lot of folks. I think it was 2 or 3 months of posting on LinkedIn before I got my first client. But then it was about 6 or 7 months into the business that I got a client from LinkedIn who I didn't realize it at the time, but she had about 30,000 followers on the platform. And she came in for a headshot session. She loved it, bought multiple images, ended up posting the images on LinkedIn. And within like 5 days, I had probably five or six new clients. And it was like this inflection point of, slow, painstakingly slow growth to like hockey stick
Mhm.
momentum almost overnight. It was wild. And I know it doesn't happen like that for everyone, but
Right.
there was a lot of consistency and building that was happening that was leading up to that. And I can see looking back all of the little steps that preceded that big moment for me.
Oh, that is so good. You said so many amazing things that we could unpack here. I'll just say it for the people because it's inspiring to hear the story, but sometimes, and based on the work that I do, people don't really know how to apply it to themselves. So I
Mm.
will say it again. First off, you can't just have a website and expect people to come and find you. Like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, if more people understood that, because there are people that sell websites, right? So they say, you need a website. And then people pay thousands of dollars, which, as we should, right,
Hmm.
for something that is well made, but that's not necessarily what's going to do it. And then you
Hmm.
started going to in-person networking, but you also started doing more intentional social media, especially with LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And you said the magic word overlapping, right? You were doing all these things simultaneously. So it wasn't just, I went to this one event and then all
Yeah.
the clients came from there. Because sometimes people, they create these expectations, or I posted this one post
Hmm.
and well, and you did have the one client that generated other clients, but it was a result of you showing
Yep.
up right
Hmm.
consistently to the point where she gave you, her vow of trust and say, I will try this out. And then she enjoyed it so much and other people follow. So
Hmm.
thank you for the transparency there in
Of
talking
course.
about the different steps because it is a grind, right? It's not one
Hmm.
thing, it's a combination of so many different things. Now, I would love to hear your decision on focusing specifically more on entrepreneurs and on speakers. Tell us
Mm.
about that, and then you can get into the personal branding type things too.
Yeah. So just over the past, I would say 3 or 4 years, I've increasingly had a lot of people coming in to work with me for headshots, personal branding images, things like that. And an increasing number of people that, in one way or another, are incorporating speaking into part of their career. They're either professional speakers building kind of a consulting business where speaking is a big part of that, or maybe they're a corporate executive, but they're starting to build a personal brand and starting to do some speaking to draw attention to that. Or maybe they're just speaking as a part of their corporate job, or things like that. And for those people that were really trying to promote themselves as speakers, I started to hear this recurring theme. And the theme was, I can't get a good shot of myself while I'm speaking. And I kept hearing it so many times. I started to think to myself, wow, this is really a problem. Like, I had one speaker come in. She told me she's been doing keynotes for 10 years. She doesn't have a single good shot of herself while she's speaking. And I thought, well, there's a problem. Clearly, people are telling me it must be a problem. Is there a way that I can help be a solution to that problem? And so I started just thinking about, well, what are some different ways that we could do this? Obviously, we could go, and one of the things we're working on is starting to provide keynote coverage for speakers at their events, where it's not just, the event photographer that's there and you just hope you get something, but to have somebody that's laser focused on you during that event really increases the likelihood of getting something. But for a lot of speakers that are starting out, a lot of times the places they're speaking are not super glamorous settings. Maybe it's in a conference room, maybe it's at a hotel in a big boardroom setting, but it's just kind of like not great office lighting and stuff like that. And I've seen a lot of my clients have shown me, their before pictures of those, and this it's not good. So there's obviously times where you're speaking, you're putting yourself out there, you're growing that part of your career, but you're just not in a location that, even if you had somebody there focused specifically on you, the setting itself is not going to look amazing. Or the lighting is not going to look amazing. So I started to think, well, what can we do to help these speakers to get some great marketing collateral for themselves, but perhaps to do it right here in my studio where we can control the lighting, we can create, what the backdrop needs to be. And so we started playing around with that, and I started having speakers come in to volunteer and sort of like experiment and try different things. And we have ended up creating something which I'm calling my keynote portraits, where we're recreating stage lighting, we're projecting their slide deck on the wall, and creating things that looks like you're on a fantastic stage with your keynote, and I'm actually getting them into their keynote. They've got a mic in their hand, they're talking about it, and I'm photographing them doing that with the intention of, you're already building your speaking business. Let's get some really high impact marketing collateral for your website, for your social media, and really work on positioning you as a go-to speaker for this topic. And so that was kind of part of the journey, was problem solving.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important note for entrepreneurs, is not just, I can do this thing, let me sell this thing as a product or a service, but really, what problem am I solving with my service? And the more specific you can do that, and the bigger the problem, the more people will want that solution. And I love working with people that, are obviously they're growing a career. So, revenue needs to be a part of that, but a big part of their motivation is impact.
Mhm.
And they want to go on stage, not just to make money, but to impact the people that they're speaking to. And I just love getting to have even a small part of that, of helping, position them and to help get them out there and to market themselves. So just a real privilege to work with people like that.
Yeah, no, that is great. And that's a great lesson in finding problems with even the current clients that you're already working with. What do they keep telling you? Because that could be something that, leverage like you, and that not everybody does, that, not every photographer or headshot photographer does, that could be helpful and could further your client base and bring value to your clients as well. Let's talk about the personal brand piece, because that's very much in connection with the work that I do as well, and helping people create a signature talk and get on stage and be known for something, right? Something specific. When people think about your name, what do they think about? And one of the things that sometimes they struggle with, not only in coming up with that, is they've built a business that has a name that is not a personal brand, right? They have this company, and then now they want to be the face because they're sharing their story on stage. Tell us about, the people that you serve, or what you've noticed in terms of the importance of building that attached to your name and showing your face. And at times it's accidental, but many times it's intentional, that people want to hide behind the business because they don't want to show themselves. But more and more, especially with the growth of social media and technology, people want to connect with a person that they know and trust, and having that face really, really helps. So talk to us about that. Hey, let me ask you a question. Would you like to be my next guest on the Empowered Woman podcast? Do you have a story you'd like to share? Want more visibility for your business on a show ranked in the top 0.5% in the world? Well, then head on over to martasburke.com/podcast guest for more information.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, big picture, I think you hit the nail on the head. People don't want to follow and connect with a faceless brand. They want to connect with and hear from a person. And that's really where the know, like, and trust factor is built, where people are hearing from and feel connected to a person. And I think you see that often reflected in, for example, on LinkedIn. If you go to a company's LinkedIn page versus the founder's LinkedIn page, as long as that founder is, maybe doing something and trying to build this personal brand, oftentimes the founder has way more followers than the company does. That's true for very, very large companies, companies like Microsoft, companies like Tesla. The founders have way more followers than the company. And I think that that holds true as well for smaller companies, for solopreneur consultants, things like that, where people don't want to go and connect with your and follow along your company LinkedIn page as much as they want to hear from you and to see your face and to listen to you. And I think that that is so important for brands that are consulting. It's a knowledge-based type of brand where the founder is the consultant, the speaker, the author. The reality is that you are what you're selling.
Right.
You're selling your knowledge, your expertise, your stories. And so to just kind of set up a faceless brand and say, well, that'll be enough. It looks very professional. That's fine. I think misses out on a massive opportunity. And we really see that. We're seeing it increasingly across, even bigger corporate companies where they are realizing that the power of empowering their executives to be ambassadors for their companies, to build personal brands at the executive level, for them to be speaking, for them to be getting featured in things. It's creating a lot more opportunities, a lot more exposure for those companies. So I think that, what I've seen in my business, I don't want to be a faceless photography company where, oh, you can get a great headshot, but nobody knows who I am or anything like that. I have really built and been working on building on LinkedIn specifically a personal brand where people feel like they know me, they like me, they trust me, they trust the results that I bring to them. And one of the things that I can tell is like this is working is when I go to a networking event. Oftentimes now I'm meeting 3, 4 people at that event that I've never met in person before, but they're following me on LinkedIn. And one of the first things they tell me, like almost across the board, one of the first things they tell me is, I feel like I know you. And that to me, that means it's working.
Yeah.
That I am starting to take up mind share, that when they think headshots or they think branding images, they're immediately thinking of me because I've built such a strong brand on that platform. And I think that that's what, if you're a speaker, if you're a consultant, an author, it's the way of the future is personal brand building where people are following you because they want to learn from your insights. They want to hear your stories. They like feeling like they're a part of your journey. All of those things are so powerful, versus people that are just like, hey, here's 5 reasons why you should get headshots from me. It doesn't resonate with anything.
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. You're giving so many lessons and so many things for people out there that, because I know a lot of people, and I'm sure you've met them too, that are resistant to social media, that are resistant to talking about themselves and sharing these things. But then they're not the ones that people go to a networking meeting saying, I feel like I know you. So, pick what you're going to do by all means, but this actually does work.
Yeah. And I think there's a way to do it because sometimes I meet people that are hesitant to do it because they feel like, man, I've never been super comfortable with just like blatant self-promotion. And I feel like that's not what this is.
Right. It's not.
And it's very much like if you go to an in-person networking event, you're not just running up to somebody, shoving a business card in their face and saying, hey, you need to come and work with me. If you're doing it well, what are you doing? You're having conversations with people. You're meeting new people. You're sometimes the one starting a conversation. Right. Sometimes you're the one that's like coming into a conversation and then contributing to that. You wouldn't call any of those things blatant self-promotion. You would just say that's networking, that's building relationships. Well, that's what LinkedIn is. It's an opportunity. Whenever you post content, that's a conversation starter. That's what that is. Whenever you comment on somebody else's post, that's you contributing to their conversation. And then, obviously the opportunity with your profile to set it up not as a resume, which so many people do it that way, but really to set it up as a landing page for, people that find your content interesting or they see one of your comments and like, oh, well, let me click on this person. When they
Right.
go to your profile page, that's sales time. That's now they're
Yeah.
interested. Now they're warmed up to you. They're intrigued by what you do. And so I always tell people that are building personal brands, don't think about your profile page as like just a straight up resume. Think about it as a landing page. What do you want them to do next
Right.
after they land on your profile page?
Yeah. Oh, that is such a smart way of going about it that I don't think many people realize because they don't realize everything works together, right? It's not
Yep.
just like what you're saying. It's not just the website. It's because that's the first thing you meet somebody. At least that's what I try to do. I meet somebody new in a networking meeting. I'm like, hey, are you on LinkedIn? And
Yeah,
so what are they going to see? The first
exactly.
it's going to be my picture.
Yep.
And also, how I describe myself, and then my website is linked there. So that could be the
Hmm.
next step. Or if I have a free
Yep.
resource, or they're going to look at my posts. What are the pictures that I'm posting in my
Mhm.
posts? All of that makes such a difference. I love that. Do you have any client stories or anything that comes to mind about, pictures that they've taken and opportunities that opened up for them afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, it's one that just happened recently, which I'm so excited about. A good friend of mine. He's in a consulting type role, and he's this guy that's just super comfortable talking to people. And he expressed to me that he really wants to start adding speaking as part of his career
Nice.
and as a way to draw more attention to what he's up to. And so he saw that I was doing these speaker images for people, and he said, I want to come in and get one of those. And I said, great, let's do it. And by the way, if we're taking one of these images, let's make sure it's going to be in a visible place so that when people find out about you, one of the first things they find out is like, oh, this guy speaks. So we took one of these speaker images. He turned it into a LinkedIn banner. So now he has one of my headshots in the profile picture, but then the banner has a shot of him, microphone in hand, confident, speaking, looks fantastic. Within 2 weeks of posting it, he got his first speaking opportunity from somebody who saw that picture.
That's
Just
amazing.
the power of positioning
Yep.
and, what are you trying to go for? Well, let's position you in that way. So that was one just awesome story from recently. But kind of going a little bit deeper than that, and I think it really ties into the personal branding and really having the confidence to step out and build that personal brand sometimes starts with the picture.
Mhm.
And that's why I like to be very intentional about the photo sessions. It's not just about clicking a bunch of pretty pictures. And one of the things that's happened with some of my clients is just some revealing of their inner confidence that they didn't know was there. One of the things that I really like to capture of my clients is confidence. And I
Mhm.
teach them how to do that through the expression coaching that I do. But this one woman in particular that always comes to mind, she came in. She was excited to work with me. She kept emphasizing, though, that she said, I just need to look super confident in these images. And I was like, great. That's one of the things I love to do is to help people with that. And so we took these images, and I always make sure that my images are viewable on my laptop immediately so people can just get immediate feedback on them. And so we took these images. I showed her to him, and we landed on two images where she just looked over the top confident, just like industry thought leader kind of vibes. And she immediately broke down in tears when she
Aw.
saw those images. And I was like, "Oh my God, is everything okay? Like what, what can I do?" And she said, "I didn't tell you this before, but I just got fired like the
Oh,
week before I came in for the session." And my professional confidence felt shattered. I didn't even want to come in and do the session, but I ended up coming in anyways. And she said, "You helped me to look so confident in these images. I now feel like I can go out and conquer the world." And I get goosebumps talking about it because it's just one of the things that I love about what I do is it's not just about, here's some, pretty pictures of
Yeah.
yourself, but like really, what are we trying to communicate to your audience and how do we capture that? And then seeing what it does to somebody's internal confidence when they see how confident they look on the screen. I love my job.
Aw, that is so cool. I love that. And it goes back to what you said in the beginning about the impact, right?
Mm.
Or you're helping them with the impact that you're creating personally in their transformation, but also professionally as they put it out there. That's such a cool story. I love that. Well, I know you have some resources for us and a special offer. Tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody that's, interested in personal brand building, I definitely recommend grabbing a copy of my book, Accelerate. I published it last year. It's available on Amazon. And I really talk a lot about my journey in building my business. And a lot of that is the personal brand building side of things and the art of creating value. And there's a whole chapter on, networking and LinkedIn and things like that. And just things that, may be very helpful for people that are building their own brand for the first time. So that's one thing I would say. But then also, for anybody listening to this podcast, if you interested in coming and working with me, I do have clients that fly in from all over the U.S. To work with me in South Florida. I'd love to set something up. And I'd love to offer any of your listeners 50% off the session fee with working with me if they book something before the end of June this year. And just love to extend that as extra value for your listeners.
Yes, that is amazing. I love that. And connect with you on LinkedIn. Well, before I have you
Yeah.
tell people how to connect with you and how to find you, I like asking all of my guests my $1 million question.
Yeah, of course. So my website is toptierheadshots.com. You can check out my portfolio there and some of the different services that we offer. But absolutely, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Daniel Wakefield, and I'll probably be the headshot photographer guy that pops up with that. Or follow me on Instagram as well, Top Tier Headshots. And would love to connect with people, and even just I love chatting about this stuff, personal brand building and things like that. So would welcome anybody to reach out and connect.
Awesome. I'll put all of those in the show notes. And then as for my question, if you can share with me, usually for my women guests, I ask, what is an empowered woman to you? But then when I have my guy guests, I ask, what is an empowered human to you? What comes to mind?
Yeah. Some of who I would say are the most empowered people that I know have two things that are true of them at the same time: confidence and humility.
That's
They're
good.
not people that are constantly parading themselves around. Look at me, look how good I am, all this stuff. They don't feel like they need to. They have that confidence. They know they're good at what they do. They know their goal is to help people transform, to have an impact on other people, and they're super confident in what they do, but they're also humble. And not like humble as in like, shrinking into themselves and I'm not good enough or anything, but humble in terms of not being threatened by other people's gifts and cheering for other people, even people that might traditionally be seen as competitors,
Right.
and still, able to cheer on other people like that. Somebody that I connected with very, like, probably in the first month or two in starting this business was another photographer here, like 30 minutes down the road. And he was warm, he was welcoming. We had lunch together, and I told him what I was up to, and we were doing a lot of the same things. And he has been a big cheerleader of mine from day one. He didn't feel threatened by what I was doing. He loved that, I wanted to impact people and not just like get as many clients as I can. It wasn't that sort of thing. And that had an impact on me of like, I don't need to be threatened by people that are like that. I can cheer for others And so I think that combination of confidence and humility to me is just such a beautiful combination of things.
That is so true. So very well put. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Congrats on all your success and the amazing work you're
Thank
doing
you.
out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.